And now I can't. I'm so beaten down and defeated by life. That drive that I once had, that's gone now. You know, I try, and I always keep trying. But it's like, I'm at the point now where it's like, why do I even bother? Like, for what? You know? I'm still in the same house, same situation, same position. Still, everything's still the same. For the most part, it's just been me against the world. It's just been me fighting an uphill battle with a big rock on my back, you know, while I'm seeing that don't deserve half of anything. Now they're getting a free ride to the top. The whole premise of the Terminator movies is that, you know, everything's rigged against you. There's no hope for humanity. You know, we're on the brink of extinction. You know, these machines are unstoppable, killing machines that can't be beaten, can't be outsmarted. But yet, humanity still tries to fight to the end. And I know it's a movie, but you know, I like to think sometimes, you know, I'm a Terminator or something. And despite you know, reaching almost total system failure, he keeps trying to.
After the shootings through the streets were done, police would still discover more. Those 3 bodies found in the alleged shooter's apartment, and that's not all they found. ABC's Clayton Sandell tonight with more on that manifesto as investigators try to peer into the mind of the killer. Clayton?
Good evening, David. Tonight you can see this small memorial, some candles and flowers for the 3 men that police say Elliot Rodger killed inside his apartment complex here. But like so many things about this case, the victims were discovered only after this violent rampage ended. Tonight, so many clues in hindsight, puzzle pieces put together too late.
Elliot Rodger here.
Elliot Rodger left disturbing hints, starting with those chilling YouTube videos.
I'll be a god, exacting my retribution on all those who deserve it.
And this 141-page manifesto detailing the troubled life of an alleged killer, from childhood bullying, sibling rivalry, fantasies about killing his father and stepmother, and his most repeated grievance, being rejected by women.
Girls gave their affection and sex and love to other men, but never to me. I'm 22 years old and I'm still a virgin.
He was really upset about why is the world so unfair to him, and like, oh, I'm a good looking guy and why a girl's falling for those ugly fat guys. That's what he mentioned, and I told him appearance is not everything.
Rodger's family says their son was already being treated by multiple therapists.
Nobody would do the types of things that happened last night unless there was some form of mental illness.
But because Rodger was never institutionalized for mental illness, it was legal for him to buy those 3 handguns along with hundreds of bullets. And his actions in those videos were so troubling, his parents alerted police. They went to his apartment less than a month before Friday's attack.
The deputies contacted the suspect. At the time, found him to be polite and courteous. He downplayed the concerns for his welfare, and the deputies cleared the call.
It's not clear if police could have done anything more.
At an alarming rate, law enforcement are being asked to be law enforcers and psychiatric social workers.
But Rodger himself offered one clue, writing, "If they had demanded to search my room, that would have ended everything." A lot of people seem to have some insight into Rodger's life, family, friends, therapists, and police, but only one person, Elliot Rodger himself, seemed to have the whole picture. David?
Clayton, thank you. Our coverage of the deadly rampage throughout the night at abcnews.com and, of course, first thing in the morning, right here on Good Morning America.
He was lonely, frustrated, and hated women because he felt rejected by them. So he decided to unleash hell. That's the picture that is being painted by police, even from the gunman's own admissions posted on the internet. Right now, CNN is going inside the mind of a gunman to see why he walked into a Pittsburgh area gym with 4 guns and opened fire. And there is a twist. CNN is learning the gunman was playing games to reveal what he was going to do. Wait until you hear that out from our internet reporter, Abby Tatton. But let's first begin with CNN's Jean Meserve. She is at the crime scene outside Pittsburgh. Jean, what do we know so far?
Suzanne, as you know, 3 dead, 9 wounded, and after a tragic event like this, there's always the question, why? Well, in this case, the gunman, George Sodini, provided some answers. George Sodini was 48 years old and appears to have been a troubled soul long before his shooting rampage. At the scene, in his gym bag, authorities found a note.
He complains about he's never spent a weekend with a girl. He's never vacationed with a girl. He never lived with the women. He's maybe had sex a few times in his life, and he goes on like this.
The same rage and frustration runs throughout a blog Sodini kept cataloging his thoughts and actions. Women just don't like me. There are 30 million desirable women in the U.S., my estimate, and I cannot find one. Not one of them finds me attractive. He calls himself totally alone, isolated, and he writes, "Thanks for nada, bitches. Bye."
There's this myth that mass killers just snap and go berserk and suddenly, without warning, shoot indiscriminately. Well, he had been thinking about this for some time.
Given his anger at women, there's a certain horrible logic in his targeting an aerobics room at a health club where women would be plentiful.
He just had a lot of hatred in him, and he was hell-bent on committing this act, and there was nobody going to stop him.
In his blog, Sodini calls his mother domineering, says his brother was a bully, his father was never there, but most of his anger is directed at women, and women were his victims last night. Suzanne, back to you.
Thank you, Jean. We're going to take this to Abby Tatton. And Abby, I understand you have an incredible development. You've been following this online. What did he put online? What do we know?
Suzanne, it looks like Sodini was teasing us to find this information that he posted. I want to show you his website. The front page of it looks innocuous enough. It's got holiday pictures here. There's a listing for a used car that he was trying to sell. But I want to show you this part here where it says life or death. If you click on that, it takes you to a whole nother page. It asks you to guess the date of Sodini's death. He knew that would be August 4th. He knew that would be yesterday. If you input that date, it leads you to this page that Jean was just telling us about. This rambling page of information about exactly what he was planning to do last night, Suzanne.
Abby, how long was this up there?
That's pretty hard to tell, but what we have been able to find out is that Sodini appeared to be working on this in the hour before that he went to the gym. There are timestamps on this document and other places in the website. 6:07 p.m., 6:10 p.m. Police say that in the 7 p.m. hour, that's when he went to the gym. Suzanne.
Incredible. Thank you, Abby Tatton.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing with the real impact of the normalization of violent misogyny and harmful masculinity offline, in which basically Pearl and the U.S. government basically discusses about the normalization of violence within the manosphere having persuasive and detrimental consequences, posing a threat to the well-being of everyone alike, and which explores a profound impact of the normalization across various domains and sections, connection with the mass violence, self-harm, harassment, bullying, everything else, and dealing with broad policy frameworks. By understanding the multifaceted harm inflicted on different groups, hopefully light is being shed on the urgent need for interventions and strategies just to counteract the destructive effects of normalized violence within the whole greater manosphere as a whole. And the pseudo red pill gurus, if you will. So if you look down the section, we understand about the whole history and everything else when it comes with mass shootings and mass violence, and basically a lot of unalivings that have happened. And in regards to those, deep condolences to those that have lost a loved one over some sensitive violence in relation to this. So basically, if they scroll up, they have certain examples where they have up in this page where normally they talk about Isla Vista, that's near the University of California, Santa Barbara, where whatever podcast is mainly host their podcast every few weeks, every week, where they do their little five-hour live streams worth of bullshit and everything else. That's where they mainly host their podcast now. It was around the same area where Elliot Rodger basically did, the mass unalivings of innocent women, right? Just be basically targeting mainly blondes, just because he can't get no ass. He can't really fuck a woman. He can't even actually spit good game or actually be confident enough to actually try to actually get a woman that's just trying to speak with him, be comfortable in his own self, just to actually try to at least bring a woman just for like a simple day at the very least. And he out here bitching and moaning, and because he can't even get his way, here comes the Berettas and here comes the handgun that he's shooting up all over his BMW, and he ends up literally offing his life as a process. Senseless violence at its finest, man. It's just sick. Now we look at the situation up in 2023, and what's the third largest mass shooting that was in the U.S. was in Allen, Texas, which is part of the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolitan area, in which the shooter shared dozens of posts on a social media account celebrating, misogynistic anti-Semitism and racial viewpoints. He's basically like a hardcore demon. In which his personal journal and forum posts, he used language commonly found within incel communities when describing his interaction with women, the widow, pseudo red pill gurus, role of online creators and radical content that the mass shooter consumed cannot be understated. His worldview and personality had become shaped by the extremist content he found online. Mental health my ass. Fuck out of here. Now, FBI and law enforcement increased monitoring efforts around the online threats and radicalization leading to a threatened and would-be attack on a college campus in the fall of 2023, in which the authorities arrested a self-identified incel at the University of Arizona after evidence on social media service of his planned mass attack, which was supposed to included common pseudo-red pill rhetoric, such as refer to men and women as Chads and Stacys, and also directly quoting from Elliot Rodger. June 2023. Former student from the University of Waterloo, Canada, entered a gender studies class and stabbed his professor and 2 female students. All taking place during Pride Month and is believed by investigators to be a hate-motivated incident related to gender expression and gender identity. How dumb could this dude be? In 2023, U.S. again broke its records for mass shootings in a year, and there's no indication that 2024 will be different because we live dealing with a land of demons. As individuals spend more time online and continuing exposed to increasingly radical and violent content, we can expect this trend of online to offline violence to continue to proliferate. Now, they talking about the gun violence and misogyny. They have 2 interconnected epidemics that continue to ravage American life that is based on the mindset of that particular person that actually chooses to use that weapon, in which they don't really care which location they go, and they don't even care what laws they got on the books. They will do everything they can to literally try to send a message and literally go off in regards of which location they do it in. Now, they talk about the social media posts and manifestos, clearly saying that many of these perpetrators hold deeply misogynistic and far-right viewpoints regarding gender identity, and sexuality, and once they deal with the mass violence situation, senseless mass violence situations mainly at that. Now, go to the next page. They talk about the far-right belief system lies vehement rejection of feminism and gender-related issues, and extremist researcher Jan Berger puts it a lot of the extremist groups that are very strong identity-based and focused on sort of toxic masculine identities are very focused on gender, not as a primary interest, but secondary matter identity, and they basically utilize that American furry infatuated gun culture and everything else, and the mindsets of certain people continues to disturb and rise in mass shootings and radical acts of violence. And they basically state that women and people of the alphabet communities are becoming increasingly key targets of these violence events, dealing with the alt-right's deep animosity towards feminist values and gender inclusivity. So basically, we understand that there's a liberal agenda being placed when it comes to this article that they show. And they talk about the Gun Cities 2022 report highlights the intersection of misogyny, extremism, and gun violence in the United States. Talking about how individuals with a history of misogyny, anti-feminist beliefs often engage in extremist ideologies, leading to an increased use of gun violence. They see some of the findings that they have there with this Venn diagram that they mainly show up on the right. Now, if we scroll down with the Gen Zs and how a younger generation is influenced by the manosphere, men and boys from Generation Z are more prone to view feminism as harmful compared to their counterparts from the baby boomer generation. All this can be seen in sharp rise in sexual harassment, sexualized comments, and physical assaults against women and alphabet classmates and teachers. And you see the situation in regards to the pseudo alpha guru Andrew Tate, alongside other wannabe podcast bros and pseudo alpha gurus as well, saying the same ideology, glorifying violence against women and promoting toxic gnosis of masculinity, urging boys to emulate the behavior to attain a woof status. And in actuality, it's actually a pseudo alpha status, because true alpha men don't even act the same way that those pseudo alpha, pseudo red pill weirdos are mainly acting. You know, the podcast bros and all that stuff, right? They don't actually react the same way that, you know, the Myron Gaines of the world and the Andrew Tates of the world mainly react. You know, they don't react the way that Tariq Nassim mainly reacts when he speaks women in like a very proper and professional tone, right? And once they have the dangerous encouragement has emboldened impressionable young men to engage in harmful actions, perpetuating the cycle of aggression and gender-based discrimination. And they have a 2022 report released in the UK highlighted that 70% of teachers experiencing misogyny students that year. 2023, an Australian study found widespread evidence of sexual harassment, sexism, misogyny perpetrated by boys towards female teachers, and omnipresent of anti-shaping shaping that behavior. Yet when compared to countries like the United Kingdom, Australia, America is far behind its counterparts in the research of the persuasive and growing effects of misogyny. As a result, only anecdotal evidence within the United States suggests teachers experience similar behaviors among their students as well, and they have subreddits that mainly back them up, and basically show the rise of agitation among my freshman boys. And they have a King's College study in 2024 which sheds light on generational disparities and attitudes towards feminism, particularly among men aged 16 to 29, in which it shows a higher prevalence of skepticism towards feminism compared to baby boomers, with a third of young men believing that feminism does more harm than good, 32%, and expressed concern about the perceived threat to traditional masculinity. Now, and I state before, we got to figure out the sample size of that pool in regards to that study, in regards to the King's College. And for more information, we could definitely look to that and actually discuss that at a different time. But this is what they found at the time with the sample pool that they found. And what they underscore growing gender-based division among young men, indicating less favorable, more polarized attitudes towards feminism and gender equality within Generation Z compared to other generations. Right? So we got about 5 more pages to go when dealing with this. Now they have the figures with the odd figures means to advocate that deals with male dominance and everything else. And they basically play on young boys' traumas, young boys' suppressions, and fears on what can go south due to their own failures and experiencing naiveties up in life. And if we scroll down here, in which the easy distribution and affirmation of the manosphere's message is amplified by the fact that Gen Z individuals, on average, dedicate around 4 hours a day online, with YouTube as the most popular social media platform among the demographic. And they also, Generation Alpha, the youngest siblings of Gen Z, spend more time engaging in online activities than on offline engagement. In which the 2023 Pew survey found that a third of adults under 30 regularly use TikTok for news, making a 255% increase since 2020. In which it suggested high exposure to problematic content exploits insecurities, particularly targeting young boys and young men. Now they talk about the widening global gender split between political ideologies, and basically how young people mainly see the world today and everything else. And I know US is basically lagging behind. And we see a clip of Sneeko basically getting himself in a bubble with the pseudo repo content with young dudes, which is unfortunately a sin to sin. I really feel horrible for these young bucks today, due to the fact of what they've seen up online and everything else, thinking that's what masculinity is supposed to be about. But yet, you know, those little heroes have little to no experience when it comes to relationships and dating and everything else. When it comes onto the world, they rely on the daddy themselves just to mainly get by, just for clout and money and everything else when it comes to social media. And we already know how Sneeko ended up getting demonetized by YouTube, losing a huge portion of his revenue, in which he has to rely heavily on Rumble just to get by with all the main money that he has left. You know what I mean? Which is real unfortunate. And actually, TikTok already banned Tate and Sneeko as well. They actually did that. Now, if we go down to the empathy fitting trends to the online misogyny, you see a lot of vulnerability that comes by with the problematic metrics of manhood that deals with widespread male identity, insecurity, precarious masculinity, and everything else. So basically, they have philosophies that vary in the teachings, in which the manosphere gospel tends to generally propound the masculine archetype that elevates dangerous qualities like unrealistic male aesthetics, substance abuse, and unhealthy emotional coping mechanisms. You know, additional trauma, additional depression. It basically deals with a psychological impact towards young men, which we actually see here. And you have a consequence of the messaging that actually deals with related to the physical prowess and masculine aesthetics. Is basically the rise in self-harm and unhealthy fitness habits, and basically like high level of self-deletion rates as well, unfortunately, when it comes to those things, right? They have basically dealing with PEDs, performance-enhancing drugs, you know, the juice, all those things, you know. And they have the Center for Countering Digital Hate report on TikTok series promotion, which shows the pet hashtags around 420 million views from American users under the age of 24. What's even more concerning, it says targeting young men pet companies. The CDH report showed paid influencers with young male followings to market storage to teens using hashtags like teen bodybuilding on videos suggesting a pet cycle. Oh boy. Oh man, this is some fucking... Oh man, this is some serious shit, ladies and gentlemen. Along with this, fitness content targeted men become increasingly fixated on diet, especially highlighting testosterone and muscle mass heavy physical aesthetics. As a result, male body dysmorphia and healthy physical habits are at concerning levels, especially on the rise. Less than half of men are okay with how they look. According to pediatric research out of the University of California, San Francisco, a third of teenage boys report trying to gain weight, and physicians at large are finding that male eating disorders are on the rise. More further research has found that 3.3% of school-aged boys have taken unprescribed PEDs, and it's still underdeveloped as we know today because they're still actually working on it. This is not the finished product as we know. There's no full research, even though they got final reports. There's always some theory that's always going to challenge that reports, which is always going to be ongoing and uncertain. Now we have the problematic teams of physical fitness that the man should on currently concerning health and substance habits in order to promote its grind set and hustler imagery. You know what I'm saying? Saying, oh, you ain't work hard enough, you know, hey, this stuff ain't really working. Like, for instance, if things don't even go well on like a practical level, they're gonna say they don't work hard enough. They actually shift the blame mainly towards the actual consumer. And I'll actually dig further deep into that into a separate dark psychology video that will actually detail this definitely further later on up ahead in the weeks to come. So you see all these little ads with Andrew Tate's Real World Organization actually tries to get you on some baits using dark psychology tricks, thinking that, okay, if you do a little bit of that pyramid scheme, you'll get by just like him, and doing all this 60,000 I forgot about the 60,000 pounds drop 16 at just 17 years old, which is very unique, however very rare, and actually basically gives you like a huge reality that there's no true easy way of making money in business, whether it's actually a 9-to-5 job or actually doing entrepreneurship. And which is actually easier to actually being a millionaire with your 9-to-5 job over the course of 20 years than it's actually being an entrepreneur, because with that comes a lot of risk. Now if you scroll down, you got the allegations of scamming students. All these pay-to-play stuff basically rely on a pyramid scheme system, and what's mainly problematic about the manosphere content is the impact of superficial masculinity and shallow masculinity on a man's mental health. You know, realistically, not all men are Chads by looks. Not all men will be billionaires. In fact, the majority of men will not be billionaires. So only few of them will definitely be billionaires for sure, and a lesser portion, like a little bit more of them, will definitely be millionaires, even though they're gonna be on the minority scale. And if you see every man merely attain towards that status, I guarantee you that the wealth gap will literally widen. The dollar value will be further inflated up in like high enormous amounts to the point where it will be literally worth zilts. You know what I'm saying? Due to the fact that you're dealing with the dollar, the value of the dollar literally deflate every single time, due to the fact that more money is mainly being produced up at the Federal Reserve. So of course you're going to have like a higher interest rates. Of course you're going to have much higher costs. And of course you're going to have the cost of living mainly rising, car costs mainly rising, goods and services prices mainly rising as well as a result of inflation. And when you deal with more people, and when you deal with more people actually not having like more and more of the affordability actually how the apartment and you have more people literally migrate to other parts of the country or even move out of the country just to try to live abroad, which creates a whole global, clusterfuck, clearly like a whole clusterfuck of sorts with like a domino effect of things due to the fact that you got literally, I forgot the words. Literally affordability mainly spreading elsewhere, basically demand rising, inflation rising mainly elsewhere, all over the world. That's why the chaos that you actually mainly see today in regards to all of this, which leads to, the wealth gap widening further and further and further between the rich and the poor. In which, a lot of men are sending on fool's errands, becoming this mythical paragon of masculinity who consort with women like currency, have tons of cars, smoke cigars all the time, and have a steroid-induced physique, being the normal alpha. Woof, woof, woof. You know what I'm saying? All materialistic shit. All superficial shit. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no man is going to realize their self-worth just from getting materialistic stuff alone. It's all in here. It's all from the internal. Confidence comes by from within. Because you can lose all that stuff with all the stuff that you done built. Or you can have like a shortcoming with your business. Or you can literally get laid off with your job by any reason, which could be at will, with no guarantee that you may be able to get a new job soon, especially when it comes to like white collar business, especially when it comes to being a white collar worker. Especially when it comes to a field like mine up in the tech industry dealing with data science, in which the positions are very, very finite. And then literally the competition is very steep. And demand is very high with supply being very low. Everything is getting more and more and more cutthroat by the day. And that can literally worsen their self-esteem if they don't get their foundation. Literally, if they don't get their foundation in check, and if they don't mainly shape their foundation along the way in regards to their self-worth and their self-confidence. And you're seeing all this stuff in regards to Andrew Tate's ex account saying depression ain't real, you're just a dope. And you see the reply saying, take a so-called depressed man out into the wild, fend from himself, see how fast his depression fades away. Want to explain? And I can literally tell you all this stuff from personal experience, coming from a gentleman who lives with autism, who lives in the autism spectrum, dealing with Asperger's syndrome. That type of mindset is complete bullshit. And this is coming from a gentleman that deals with anxiety and depression literally from time to time to time. You know what I'm saying? Depression is a very, 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 very complex subject, which some people may not even get out of it when they deal with like an extremely traumatic experience, in which they really need to deal with mental health counseling through a psychologist, to mainly start off. You know what I'm saying? Depression is a real thing. Depression is a complex thing, and you actually try to shift their war deals whenever they stuff ain't working. They actually try to inflict their failures, and in fact they deflect their miseries onto you, because according to them, you ain't work hard enough, you ain't work strong enough, and they want to try to force you up into the superficial, which can literally drain yourself a little down the line. And who profits off the most, especially in misery? These motherfuckers right here. These lame ass losers, these pseudo alpha gurus that make a killing off of your misery, but God forbid, while you end up facing self-delusion, while you end up facing issues, and God forbid you end up dealing with shortcomings, they're not going to literally be up here to actually have a man's back as he claims that he is having. And look at another post I got up here. LMAO, I want to off myself the next few years, living forever. Sad shit, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the point of acknowledging the struggles of men, body of feminist scholars is just an overemphasis on men's mental health, and the pity for men entangled in the manosphere is playing to a grieve entitlement, delusion, and enabling male victim mentality. And yes, while there's merit to mindfulness about the way we extend empathy to perpetrators of harm, the path forward is not paved with pointed fingers and blatant demonetization. Absolutely agreed. By neglecting compassion for those we deem problematic and dangerous, we've engaged humanity's greatest folly, forgetting to see ourselves in other people and putting ourselves in their position and trying to actually go into their shoes and see what they're thinking. The empathetic approach does not forgive, enable, justify, or excuse. Agreed. The empathetic approach just seeks to paint a complete picture. If the manosphere ran on pure malice and evil, it would have died a long time ago. The meat of toxic masculinity is lost men find the wrong answers. Boom! We won't help them find the right ones unless we see them as the vulnerable and the flawed human beings that they are. By preserving report, trust, respect. Key word, respect. Respect being currency for the human decency of all. Manosphere countermeasures would be far more forthcoming, and the community of tolerance and kindness that we use to entice them back will be so much warm and inviting. Victim-centered research does not demand the vilification of violent perpetrators, nor does empathetic countermeasures absolve past wrongs or diminish their harms. Above everything, we must fight to preserve the humanity in everyone, no matter how horrible their actions. And it's all about learning from their mistakes. It's all about encouraging them to do great. It's all about encouraging and accomplishing them, actually taking the first step, actually again seeking the proper help that they need, and to be more than willing to get constructive criticism whenever they need be, whenever the time is right, just to make themselves better, not just externally but also internally, which is actually the number one important. You have to actually make sure it comes from the inside out. You know what I'm saying? Without that encouragement, without actually instilling confidence in young men from the inside, they will literally go on a path to destruction and a possible path of bedevilment if they are not careful. And you need to get them young. You need to try to encourage them to do a lot of fun things that they love to do. You need to encourage people that, not everyone is evil. Not everyone is really trying out to get you. You need to actually try to have them learn all about attention to detail when it comes to people, just as attention to detail when it comes with your job, when it comes to your profession, when it comes to your academics, as well as when it comes to your athletics. Academic success, professional success, and social success, although intertwined, are independent of one another. And I'm going to leave it at that with this part. Expect the next part of this series of, the whole guideline of diverting hate to come by very, very shortly.
Get stoned!